Welcome to the Hobby Handbook, your weekly dose of news, deals, and data from the world of sports cards. Hosted by Alex, aka Clever Cuban Cards. New episodes every Thursday. Look for more Clever Cuban Cards content over on TikTok and YouTube. Check us out live on Whatnot every Sunday and Wednesday.
All right, so welcome back to the Hobby Handbook, your weekly source of deals, data, and news from the sports card world. Today, I have the famous Mike Gioseffi, aka Gio, of sports cards nonsense fame. You know, the Tom Brady, Larry Bird super collector. If you guys haven't checked out Sports Cards Nonsense, great podcast, of course. Happy to have you here today, Mike.
That is quite the intro. Thank you. Larry Joe Bird, that is, of course.
Yes, of course.
I don't want your audience to be confused. Yeah.
No, never.
Are we talking newborns here? What are we doing? Cards?
Our
Kids?
newborn is upstairs. She's doing well, but
Nice.
I know I heard yesterday you're struggling taking the pacifier away, so.
Yeah, so I went away for one night for a family reunion. My wife decided that was the night to go totally cold turkey, no pacifier.
Yep.
3 nights of absolute hell. Last night he slept all the way through.
Love it.
So,
Hey, progress. We'll take it.
Yeah, I guess.
No.
Yep.
So, newborns are fun. Sports cards are more fun. Now, we know who you collect, Mike. We know with our audience here, Hobby Handbook, looking at people starting off in the hobby, learning to learn more about the hobby. We know who you collect, but what is it that initially got you started collecting? You know, Papa Gio, was he influencing you sports-wise? What brought on, baby Mike to get started in the collecting world?
Yeah, about 5, 6 years old. My brother, I have an older brother, Russ. He's 7 years older than me. So when I'm 4, he's 11. 5, he's 12. Griffey was just like the most. He honestly, the simplest way, he was the coolest sports figure at the time. This was post Larry Bird. The Patriots stunk, Red Sox stunk, but Griffey was like the cool, young, like awesome, like everybody cheered for this guy, cool swing, hat backwards. So we just started buying Griffey cards, like any cards we could find a Griffey, and any Red Sox just by default. That was our thing. We just collected all those cards.
Love it. And did you collect? I know a lot of people, myself included, kind of go through the whole, you collect when you're young, maybe getting middle school, and then in high school, girls start to come onto the scene and you're starting to do other things and you kind of drop off high school, college, and then maybe later on in life you pick it back up. Did you collect nonstop? Did you pick it up, drop it? How'd that work for you?
Yeah, I collected from a young age right up until like freshman year of high school. I took like 2 or 3 years off for like what you were just saying. And then as I got out of school, kind of started collecting a little bit here and there. And I got married at 22. So for the first 2 years of like nothing, no cards at all, just had my stuff in a closet. And then about 2010, I got back into it. So kind of on and off from 01 to 04, my high school years. Kind of on after that until I got married in 2008. And then from 2008 to 2010, took off completely, forgot all about it, came back in 2010, totally full-time. Buying, collecting, going crazy, getting sets I remembered as a kid.
And here we are. And, one of the things that we have in common, outside of being, from Massachusetts, short kings, etc., we also are both people who have turned sports cards into a full-time job. Now, I'm pretty sure if my memory is correct, you used to work, hanging drywall. You were doing very much so manual labor and, running a breaking business on Facebook, kind of doing things like that. And you eventually turned it into the full-time gig. When did you know that the hobby could be more than just a hobby for you? I love talking about how you can use sports cards to fund sports cards, and I'm sure that you were doing that both for just the fun of breaking and being able to open boxes, but also a little bit of money on the side is always a nice thing. But there is a moment that kind of clicks in your head where you're like, wait a minute, this could be more. Did you have that moment for yourself?
Yeah, a couple just super quickly. So 2012, I'm back in 2010. First year or two, so up until just about 2012, it was like, hey, I'm just collecting stuff I like occasionally, very little income, not making much, so just collecting, nothing but. 2012, it was like, hey, what if I start like flipping to collect, like flip so I can make money to collect more. From 2012 to 2015, I did that, and then 2015, I got linked up with a local guy. Breaking wasn't what it is now. It was very different. Facebook, small numbers. And I would start siphoning off days of work. So it was like, hey, I'm not going to work 5. I'll paint 4 days this week and do drywall, and I'll do breaking one day. And me breaking was literally sorting, shipping, checking numbers, because we're collecting on Facebook. So everything but the camera work I did, all the back end stuff. Did that for like a year and a half, and then 2018 rolled, or for 2 years, I guess. 2018 rolled around, and I was like, hey, it was getting to the point where I was like, man, I'm having trouble justifying going and working construction for $200 a day. Like, we're making a lot more than that doing this. And so it was like, all right, 4-to-1 construction, 3-to-2. Then it was like, man, we're doing more cards. And then it was like, I don't want to go work. I don't want to go do real work anymore. Like, it sucks getting up at 5 and carrying stuff and physically taxing work. And so, yeah, like 2016, it was like, all right, I think this can work. Talked to my wife. She was still working at the time. And we're like, hey, we're just going to give it a go. And if I need to go back to, construction, I will.
Yeah. And you've never looked back. I wonder, have you ever doubted yourself? I know a lot of people, when they start, working for themselves, doing things like this, you have moments potentially where it's like, did I make the right choice? Whether it's a dip in the economy or whether it's just, a dip in business for you in general. Have you had a moment where you've said, I don't know that this whole, podcast and or, breaking gig is going to work for me?
Yeah, so 2016 to 2020 were awesome years. Like, killed it, made a lot of money, worked a ton, but made way more than I was ever. I mean, just to be honest, like, our goal was always, if we can make 60 a year together, we're like killing it. Like, down in Tennessee, I was like, this is great money. We were living our dream. And so the first couple of years, 2016 to 2020, I was making much more than that just on my own. But when COVID started, I mean, it was so much to the point. We had a small 2-bedroom apartment here in Tennessee. We had gotten rid of the kitchen table and all the furniture in the kitchen, and it was literally just 150 cases of cards. That's how much we were breaking. Oh, it was a joke. And I was like, we need the space. But it's also paying. We're going to pay for our first house here soon. We'll get out of here eventually, but for now, we're staying in this little closet. And when COVID hit, I was like, man, we're sitting on hundreds of thousands. At the time, hundreds of thousands. Now, who knows? But I was like, if this all goes south, the last 4 years are for nothing, and like, I'm back to work. Yeah. That's the first time. Like, I told my wife the end of March, you're not going to see me for the next month or two. We are in total 24/7 sell mode, live every single day, selling every single day. We are going to really move a ton of inventory. It went the other way. Stuff obviously started spiking after the first week.
Exploded,
But that was the first week. I was like, dude, if this goes south now, I didn't save any of the money. Everything we made went right back into the business. So it was like, there's a great nut if we sell it all and walk away, but if it just goes to nothing, we don't have anything to show for it. So that was really my first time, and I was like, all right, this is a thing.
Yeah. Yeah, and I totally understand it in that the world, you didn't know what was going to happen at that time. But the sports card market just went up, and it came back down, and I think now is kind of trending back up, which I think I want to transition a little bit to talking about the current state of the hobby, because to that point, there's been a lot of kind of ups and downs and fluctuations within the sports card market. If you were to have to give the health of a hobby a grade, you talking about getting a 56, back on your, high school days, what would you grade sports cards in the market right now? How would you view it?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's healthier than a lot of the COVID stuff. That was awesome, and it was crazy profitable. It wasn't healthy. Yeah. Like, I'm buying a Willie Mays rookie to flip it in 3 days for triple. So right now, I actually think it's a pretty good time, like a B plus. Yeah. Maybe?
Yeah. I think that I'd agree. I think that while there was more, everything was going up in that period of life. And it's a sign that it's not a healthy market because everything can't be going up. That's not a reality. Right. It was not based in reality. It was based in something else. But I agree. I think that there's definitely some things that need to be improved in the market, but I think that we are in a much healthier place. I feel like it's a much steadier place. I think that a lot of people, especially you have a lot of the OGs that have been in it for a while that look at things right now and they say everything has gotten to be way too expensive. The prices of singles, the prices of wax, etc. And one of the things that I am a big believer in is that the market is going to market. You can think something is or is not worth X amount of dollars, and whether or not we objectively want to have that conversation is one thing, but the market sets the price. And I just posted a video the other day talking about, the difference between MSRP and market. And you're somebody who deals with that day in and day out as a breaker who, you get your allocation from Topps, and I know you get stuff at a wholesale price that you can't share. I know that they've changed the ways that you operate there. Yeah, but when Topps releases a product, looking at Topps Finest, I know that came out last week, and Topps released it on their website on pre-order at $289. But on release day, Steel City Blowout, they had it for between $450, $500 a box. I saw guys on TikTok breaking it at $650 a box. You have guys that look at this and they say things have gotten so out of control.
Sure.
Because it's not a $600 box. And I don't disagree with that. I don't think that it's worth $600. If you're paying $600 to rip that, that's tough. But at the same time,
by the way. Yep.
As somebody who's a business person, if you go out and you say, okay, well, MSRP is $289, you're here to make money. You're not here just to, you're here to have fun, but you're here to, make money as well. And how do you view the balance of MSRP versus market? Because at the end of the day, the market is the market. If you're Shep's, our local card store that we go to, if he sells those boxes at MSRP, you're going to have guys that just come in and flip it on eBay the same day. Like, how do you think that a collector should justify or look at kind of the difference of MSRP versus market there?
Yeah, I mean, number one, like, I don't do this intentionally. Well, I do, but I mean, it's not just on the consumer. But like, don't buy into the box out at $600. Like, I always tell people that if there's people who are sick. Now, granted, you're probably not going to get it for $289 either. The website sells out quick. But us and a billion guys I know, we were $425 and $450, depending on which platform we were at. Pretty much middle of the road. There's a bunch of guys like that. Now, granted, the guys who are paying more for it have to charge more, but that's not the burden of the customer. I don't care that you're a mom and pop store and paid more, so you have to charge me more. Either I'm going to accept that and pay more because I like this guy and I'm trying to help him build, or I'm just going to go to one of the bigger breakers and say, fine, they paid less, they're charging me less. But it's definitely a balance. Like, I'm also smart enough to realize, I could resell it all for $289. Someone's going to buy it and flip it. Well, if they're going to flip it, I'm going to flip it. I'll do it myself. Like, I don't need somebody else to profit off my back. But there's a balance, and your customers know that. Like, customers are smart enough now to sit down and put a PYT together and add up what you're charging. Hey, SCN Brakes was $34.80 for their PYTs of finest. This guy on Whatnot was $5,900. Well, don't buy in. Like, I guess that's a part I'm always kind of puzzled by. Is it a brutal price? Yes. But somebody was dumb enough to pay that. Nowadays, dude, it's a Google search. It's not like 10 years ago when we started breaking, where breakers were tough to find. They were, popping up. You didn't know if you could trust them. There's a million different platforms now. Go on one of the other platforms. Find somebody who's breaking for a good price. Like, if it's a better price on Whatnot, go there. If you find somebody on eBay or Fanatics, go there. Just be smart with your money.
Yeah, and I have two thoughts there. The first is, to that point, it's a really interesting question on the Fanatics and Top side of things, to the point of leaving money on the table. You've seen you talking about you guys ripping, 2016 Bowman boxes at $50 a box, basically, on the podcast this week. Like, Tops used to charge so much less for product, but the market has gone up. And it's the same reason that we've seen the price of retail rise, that back in COVID, when you were able to go to Target and buy an optic blaster box for $20 and sell it on eBay the same day for $100, it's no surprise that Panini and Top said, hey, we need to jack these prices up because we're leaving money on the table. They're here to make money. But it is this balance of, they don't want to leave too much money on the table, in the sense of, charging so low that you don't have the guys in the SCN Facebook group complaining about the price of boxes. At the same time, though, they also don't want to leave so much money on the table that they're playing this game. So it's a difficult balance, and I do not envy, Mike Mahan and Ruben having to figure out how to find that balance. I also think, to your point of going and finding somebody else, I think you are spot on that in the world that we live in. When I had our first episode of the Hobby Handbook, when I talked with Ryan Alford, he talked about that it's a different world. It used to be that you go to your local card shop and the price was the price was the price. You couldn't go on eBay and find somebody that's going to sell it at a different price. You couldn't go onto a different, website, live selling platform, etc. You went to your card store, and unless there was another one in town, that was the price you were paying. You didn't have an option. Today, it's very different, but I think that where you run into issues is guys that are not trustworthy, and there are so many people that are running their own hobby business, and there are good people out there, and there are, some people who don't run their business in the most up and up way, in my opinion. And I think that live selling has grown to be so big. I mean, you hear Gary Vee talk about how years ago, he thinks that live selling is going to be huge, and it's true. Live selling is big, and I think it's only going to get bigger. I know you're starting to do stuff on eBay Live, but you have guys when you go in, and I know we have talked about this, about how there are two types of sellers. You have the sellers that are the yelling, screaming, and unfortunately sometimes lying about the value of cards. You say, this is a crazy good value at $650 because they know that if they sell it, they're making a bunch of money. Or you say, we're not even halfway there, chat, on a $10 card that's already at $30 on bid. And I think that what happens is you have newer collectors especially who don't necessarily know. They look at these pages that have 20, 30, 40, 50,000 followers, and they say, they're a huge page. They have a huge following. They are a trusted name in the hobby. So when the host is saying that this is a good value, I'm believing that it's a good value.
Sure.
And then that hurts the future of the hobby because you have some people that will learn their mistake and go and, find the more trustworthy guys like you that are going to be upfront with them, that will tell them, oh man, we got rocked on that box. That's brutal. You're not yelling about hitting a, $5 card. Sure. But there's also a lot of guys that are going to do that, realize that they got screwed, and walk away forever.
Absolutely. Yeah, and that's always my fear. Like, everybody says, why do you worry about what other people sell for? Who cares? Well, that's why. Because, the new guy who comes in and finds them, if that's the treatment they get at first, I think the majority will do that. I think it's 60-40, 70-30. They will come in, bad taste in their mouth, I'm gone. I can do this anywhere else.
Mm-hmm. And that goes for singles as well. I know that you are starting to dip your toes into the singles market. I do singles pretty much holistically in terms of what I do. And one of the things that I do think is an interesting kind of flip side to that coin of, overpaying for a card. Everybody knows, and maybe not everybody, but if you have any experience within the hobby, you know that a lot of times on live auctions, stuff will sell for over comp. Sure. And it's this interesting balance in that I get sometimes the comp police that come into my whatnot streams and they say, oh, it's a $7 card that just sold for $17. And at the end of the day, it's cardboard. What is it worth is what somebody's willing to pay for it. And I think one of the interesting things, I've got a video that is going out tomorrow, but will be live by the time that our listeners are listening to this, about, what are comps? And, how do you figure out the value of your card? And, where do you find and look at values? One of the really interesting things about the hobby is that all of these live selling platforms, comps aren't tracked. So you go on eBay and you say, okay, I just bought myself the other day, actually, a really cool card, a Julio Rodriguez, the variation out of, Stadium Club.
Stadium Club, yeah.
Super
nice.
rare cards. PSA 8 just did $80 and I got the SGC 9.5 for like 40. Like, crazy good deal.
Jeez,
but
yeah, that's awesome.
And that's where comps come into play, is that you look at that and you say, okay, I think it's worth more than what I paid for it. My bid was triple what it ended up selling for. But the market doesn't see that because they only see the sold price. Or had I bought that on Whatnot, you're not going to see that at all. There are fluctuations in valuations even on eBay within comps. You have a card that will sell for $2 and it will sell for $20 because somebody wants it right then at that price. What's a card worth is what somebody's willing to pay for it.
And yeah, so real quick, so that's my point. Before you get past that point, I agree with that to a degree, except when it's I almost compute it to like when you go into a poker room, you sit at a table thinking, okay, the house almost always wins, but I'm going to play my hand, I'm going to do my thing. That's one thing. But then when you realize the 9 guys around you at the table are all working together, it's like, oh, I equate that to like when you go into the live room, the guys that do like the 5-second sudden death auctions, for example.
Yep.
A card is worth what somebody's willing to pay. That's true. But when I come in and a guy is really hyping it, like you said, and the room is chatting, and the chat is even, because a lot of times the chat is in on it. They're like, oh, dude, great prices here. People are getting steals. Yes and no. Now, if I buy something, I am still 100% responsible for my own actions. However, it's the extra crap, those external pushes. That's what I would like to get rid of. Because it's one thing to pay $17 for a $7 card. Because first of all, am I going to find it for $7 on eBay, or is it going to be $9? I got to pay tax. I got to pay shipping. It's $13. I just want it now, as opposed to, hey, here's a $150 card and it gets bid up to $400, and I'm being guilted and goaded into bidding more. Mm-hmm. Definitely blame on both sides, but that is kind of where I get like, not all comps are equal for that reason almost.
Yeah. Well, I personally think, and I don't run my streams with any sudden death. I go the above and beyond in that I pre-list every single card that I run,
Yep. Which
at
I love,
least
by the way. I think that's
24, if
awesome.
not longer, so that my audience can go and do the research and say, okay, this is what I want to pay on this card.
Yep. And I do sudden death, by the way, on my singles, 20 seconds. Sudden death auctions.
Give people
It's
time
the
to
5
think.
second thing. Yeah, it's the 5 second thing where it's like people are hitting it so quick, and the jumps aren't always a buck. If it's a good value, it's like a $10 or $25 bid. It gets out of hand.
Yeah, it can get to be predatory, that's where it gets to be problematic. But you also run into, I think it's, one of the questions that I got in my mailbag today was somebody asking about, the price of cards and why, how we can avoid people getting, scammed at a show where you have somebody comes up and says, another vendor sold me this card. I think it's a great deal. I bought it for $50 and it ends up being a $35 card. And the vendor told them that it was a good deal. And that's the type of stuff where I don't like when guys are not being truthful about values. My rule is I don't talk comps until after the card is sold. I'll tell you if you get a great deal and I'll be excited for you. Because I know for me, I wouldn't be doing this. I'm not here if it doesn't average out for me. But at the same time, if you have the time that you are able to do the research, if you're able to look at the card, if you have time to think about it, it's not the 5 second sudden death, it's not being predatory, and you are willing to pay $50 for a $35 card. I overpay for PC stuff all the time. And I think that we as a hobby are so locked into what comps we see and what comps are that sometimes it's the question of what comps aren't being tracked. A lot of the high-end market is not tracked at all comp-wise because it's all private sales.
Exactly. And even like use your J-Rod as an example. If you just love J-Rod and happen to, like, let's just say, for example, I'm a big SGC guy, always have been for my PC stuff. We have a huge sponsorship with PSA. I still love the look of a tuxedo for certain sets and some things I will never have in any other holder. If I find a Brady card for a set that is a 9.5 and it's a rare card, and the last 3 comps are 50, 60, and 50, so it's like 55 average roughly.
Yeah.
But it doesn't come up more than a couple times a year. I'm gonna be honest with you. I'll pay $80 to $100 for the card.
Yep, I thought the same thing.
Yeah, like I'm good with that. And even like at the show, somebody bought a $55 card for $35. Did they know? My pushback at a show too is if you didn't know, are you under a friggin' rock? Like nobody at the show is like the vendor's not saying you get 5 seconds. It's really just a predatory type, like bid, pumping up and inflating values in the moment, because then I think you are playing to the addiction of people.
Yep.
They're still responsible, but that's the part I hate. But
And
yeah,
that
not
I
all
think is
comps
the
are
flag
equal.
for new listeners and people new to the hobby. If you,
Yep.
I talked about this last time, don't let anybody tell you what a card is worth. If I want to break out comps and show you and kind of understand and take the time to sit down and talk through value, which I do all the time when guys come to me and say, hey, what do we think on this card, etc. But
Sure.
don't let somebody tell you what a card is worth, especially if they're trying to sell you something right then and there, quick. Walk away and go find somebody who's not trying to yell and scream at you that this is going for a crazy deal and this and that. Like,
And here's the other thing too I hate, because some sellers will use the excuse of like, well, I mean, they're bidding, I can't control that. It's like, well, you can to a degree. For example, and you focus more on the low end stuff, like $100 and less, right?
Yeah.
That's still the main focus, which is great. Like, again, I like that too, because the margin is, hey, this is a $13
so
card.
much better.
If it sells for $4 more, 4 on 13 is a huge margin. I think the average sale on my eBay Live the other night, and it was really skewed because of the Jordan rookie, but take that out, it was still probably $100 to $150. There's a difference though. Like, a $100 card sells for $160. Well, first of all, it's like, hey, dude, you overpaid for the card on most comps. I'm sure you're happy. Throw something else in. And you can acknowledge it there as well, because I think the room responds to that. So many people are short-sighted, like, oh, I just made an extra few bucks on this card. My thing is like, hey, dude, you just overpaid. Appreciate it. I'll give you something extra. I think that transparency then leads, though, to they're going to come back and do it. And for all of the big stuff, we sold a Unitas rookie, a Barry Sanders flawless booklet, and a big LeBron rookie. I told him ahead of time, here's the last 5 to 10 comps. Here's why I think it's worth more than that now. Number one, it's worth more because it's my card and I want to make more money. Like, I'm not trying to pull. Number two, though, I'm like, hey, I think this is worth more because the market is doing this or that or whatever. You can upsell it if you want to, but I do think with bigger stuff, you should preface like, hey, this is kind of the market. This is where it's at. And you can take care of your people. Like, it's not that hard to do.
oh, absolutely. I mean, I when I run my streams, my average card that I sell, I just did the math the other day over the last 18 months and 26 or 27,000 cards. My average card is $18. Yeah. But I have high value stuff that's in the shop that I say, I'm not a maniac. I'm not auctioning off this, $300 Junior Caminero card starting at $1. It's not my room. It's not my audience. It's not my customer. I have it available, but let's talk about value. We'll talk about comps on those where it's I have a set price and I'm willing to work with you on it. Some things are, it's for sale. It's not on sale. If you want to pay the price, great. And if not, we can always move on. Yep. But it's a balance. And I think that the big thing is just making sure that new guys know how to identify what the predatory selling tactics are so that they can move on and understand that and find somebody who's not going to prey on them and who is actually going to try and help them and be clear and honest and values them as a customer, because I want to get that person back. Now, correct. Thinking about how you can learn those things, transitioning a little bit to the future of the hobby. I know you are, behind the launch of the SCN network, the lots of new content and things. This podcast is a part of that. You've got a lot of other new things coming up. I totally love that you're doing this because I think the content to the point of that learning, how do you get new people to understand and learn to grow within the hobby is paramount, and I don't think there's enough of it. But I'm curious from you, 3 to 5 years from now, what is your vision and goal? What is the SCN network?
I mean, easiest combination, like I could say, it's the Barstool ESPN of the hobby. Mm-hmm. Like, I want content for everybody. And, by the way, I sent you this the other day, and I got 2 of the same messages. People I don't really know, hey, Hobby Handbook, heard the first episode, loved it. And I sent you that because I was like, this is great. I hear just as many guys, and this is why I know it's working. They'll be like, hey, dude, listen to it the other day, hated it. Whether it's your show, my show, whatever. Yep. And my whole thought is, it's exactly what I want. Yep. I don't watch every show on ESPN. I don't need you to like everybody. But I do like the fact that, hey, there's guys who are here for strict card breakdown, numbers talk, very realistic turnaround. Like, cool, Hobby Handbook is perfect for you, and help getting in. You mentioned Ryan Alford, who's launching the Collecting on SI podcast on our platform. Dude is brand new to the hobby. His story is weird because he's a crazy successful businessman, brand new to this space, and he has kids. He's going to ask questions just like Jesse did when he first came in that nobody else is going to ask because we're veterans already. We don't talk about the small stuff. Perfect. He can. And some guys are like, oh, I don't like that. Great. Then don't listen to it. Go listen to the Mojo guys are super break-centric, but they've been breaking for 15 years and can talk about trends and different stuff that most other breakers, myself included, can't talk about. And then you have our show where it's like me and Jesse, honestly, we look at it as we want to be entertainers more than card talk guys. So the goal is you just keep adding to the roster, keep bringing people in, get some big sponsorship money so we can keep building out these things, and really just have this be a place where there's content for everybody. Whether you love it, hate it, whatever, you're talking about it. That is the end goal. Yep.
And people, the listeners can go find this in video format. If you want to see our pretty faces, if you're listening to this on Spotify, Apple, wherever, you can go to the Sports Cards Nonsense YouTube page and find the other shows as well. I mean, you've got Daily Nonsense, you've got the Mojo Breaks, you've got Cut the Nonsense, you've got a bunch of stuff. So lots and lots of different options there.
Yep. Yeah, and by the way, the Daily Nonsense thing is perfect. I would never do a daily show. I don't have time for it. Yep. Adam does an awesome job with that. And he's like this perfect, just monotone news voice. And again, some guys are like, I love it. I get my quick daily dose of it, and it's great. Other guys are like, oh, I hate it. Yeah. Perfect. So go listen to Hobby Handbook or the other one. That's the point, though, is to create buzz. Yeah, and then eventually what I really hope starts happening organically, I don't want to force this, though, is you take issue with something I said, so you make content about it. Then I make content as a response, and maybe there's a roundtable meeting, or Adam's referencing something the Mojo guy. I really hope at some point we also start to make content about the content, because that's when it becomes the Barstool model. Like ESPN sells because it's the product, Barstool sells because of the people. I think if you can merge both of those in this little niche, I think that's when it becomes a big thing.
Yep. And as I texted you about the other day, working on getting the SCN Fantasy Football League going.
Dude, I love it.
Do some stuff.
I absolutely am all in. I will text everybody. I think that would be a perfect, we have a weekly 10-minute thing on social somewhere and review it, do the live draft, whatever. I'm in. That's the type of crap, though.
Trade negotiations. Love it. Love it. Little tease for the listeners, but it's coming. It's going to be good. As I said, I'll take the spearhead on it. I'll get things moving, but we just need to get the list of guys together.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. And winner gets equity in the whole company. There you go. HSI, they get a little piece.
I love it.
Raise the stakes. I do, though. That's the type of stuff I think people will then follow. Like, how many people play fantasy sports? How many people of those guys collect cards? There's a huge crossover.
Yep.
There's also a million of those guys who don't do it. So, yeah, I
Bring
think it's
them
a great idea.
Absolutely. And then the last thing that I wanted to talk on, that I want your opinion on, is somebody who I know that you are more of a football, basketball guy from a PC perspective for the most part. And I know you're a big Brady guy, obviously. I know you like baseball as well, and you're a big, I see the Mariner stuff behind you. I know you've got your Griffey PC as well. But one of the most interesting questions that I get all the time is people being worried about what's going to happen to the football and basketball markets when Topps takes over. The Fanatics takeover is coming within the next year. They're going to own everything. And so much of that is, I think so much of, especially the football market, is case hit driven. You have downtowns, you have kabooms.
Kaboom. Yeah.
It is case hit driven.
Sure.
And Topps historically doesn't really have the case hits.
Yeah, like if I asked you what's the best Topps case hit in the last 2 years, anything pop off the page?
My answer, nice, and I'm curious on your answer, because what I have said is what I think is going to happen is I don't think the football market will abandon case hits. I think it's too foundational to the market and how it operates. It's just a matter of how long it takes Topps to figure out what the new case hit is going to be and what that chase ends up being. So as somebody who has ripped a lot more Topps football wax than I have, because I have ripped 0 boxes, what do you think? Do you think that they have anything going for any case hits? Do you think that there's maybe something they could steal from baseball that would go well? What's your opinion?
Yeah, so I number one, I think in general, Topps has not done a great job. It's not even that they haven't done a good job. The market hasn't responded. So yeah, I guess you could say it's Topps not doing a great job. There is no downtown, no kaboom, no color blast. Now, I would say, like, for football especially, like the Helix, I could see potentially. It's also super tough because there's no license yet. Like, if Helix was licensed, does that then become like the new color blast, kaboom, downtown?
They do good in baseball, but they don't do great. They don't do crazy numbers.
Yeah, even baseball, like the home field advantage, I think is an awesome looking card. I don't think it sells particularly crazy.
It doesn't.
Like that wild card thing they had, or whatever it was, with the actual back looked like a card from a deck of cards. I thought
the all aces, the all kings,
all aces.
Yeah,
but even that, like, I wasn't over. So I think that's, quite frankly, in baseball, I think you just bring back some of the stuff from the late 90s. I think the nostalgia there would bring all of us old guys back in, and that would be the new push. I think in football, I think they're still looking. I don't think there's one in football. The only one I think that stands out to me, and I love it even unlicensed, I think it's going to be better licensed, Cosmic Planets, I think, are awesome. Yes. The Planetary Pursuit run, it's a baseball thing. Like, I could see that having sustaining power. But like the Radiating Rookies, which they do across all the sports,
doesn't do it for me.
Very underwhelming. I'm trying to think in Finest. Like, Finest had a bunch. The Let's Go, they've done that in a few releases now, football and baseball.
Cool, but they don't sell well.
I think it stinks. Yeah, I think it stinks. I'm just not a fan. They did have one, Smashing Through or Breaking Through, in Finest, that I thought was pretty cool. Again, that has a license, and I haven't seen that in football yet. But, like, football has really struggled to get that. The biggest press with football now is you have autos of guys you can't get in Panini, so we're buying Topps. But it is true, if the model doesn't change and the football fan is like, hey, I want the case hit chase, then I think they've got work to do. I don't think there's anything right now where you're like, this is the big one. I think Helix is the only one to me that could stand out. And even that, to me, would be number 4. Licensed, not licensed. Like, even playing field with licensing, I think Kaboom, Downtown, and Color Blast are better than that one right now.
Yeah, my personal take is that I think that if it is a insert set that already exists, we will see those baseball ones rise as the football ones do. In the same way that baseball downtowns and baseball kabooms bring big dollars, even though they're unlicensed. My personal favorites, I was shocked that Topps didn't do home field advantage in Topps Chrome football this year. Like, why?
Yeah, that would have killed. Yep,
it seems like a huge miss to me. And then...
What do you think of the crystallized, by the way, before you move on? You remember the one in Bowman?
I have one I bought a James Wood at the National, actually. I need to look at it, see if it's worth grading, but it's a cool card. I don't think it's it. I think my opinion on the best 2, if you were to say, Alex, you got to take your bet, I think it's going to be home field advantage and the spotlights out of Bowman.
Oh,
I think
now
the spotlights
Bowman,
could fill that, color blasty type.
sure.
They're
Nice looking cards.
crazy cheap for what they are and how rare they are. But baseball's not a case hit driven market. It's a first Bowman market.
Right.
It's a Topps Chrome Rookie Auto market. It's not. But I think that if the football market does take those on, then we will hopefully see a little bit of a bump in those.
Yeah, I don't know what the answer is. I know we haven't found the answer yet. The licensing will help, but if you went to market with the same inserts from the 24 class with 25 or 26, whenever they make the new stuff, it's got to be. I just don't think even with the licensees are going to do it. So, I totally agree.
Absolutely. I have one last thing for you before I have some mailbag questions, and I don't have to hold you for the mailbag questions, but I do have a lightning round of some questions for you here. And
here we go. Quick.
Super quick. Most overrated product.
Oh, God. Prism.
Prism. I agree. I think it's overrated too. One player whose valuation is way off, whether it's way too high or way too low.
J.J. McCarthy. Stupid.
Stupid high?
Yeah, ridiculous.
Go blue. I disagree. I agree with you, but go blue.
I hope you're right for the hobby's sake. Absolutely ridiculous pricing.
Yes,
Never taken a snap. And I think the Vikings are missing the playoffs, just so we're clear.
Interesting. Okay. We'll see. Will Fanatics end up acquiring the Panini brands when all is said and done? Yes or no?
No.
Okay.
Nope.
What discontinued brand would you like to see return?
Ooh, Stadium Club Chrome. I don't know if it's totally discontinued yet, but they got rid of it this year. Yep. I would love to see that for football and basketball. That was my thing growing up. Stadium Club Chrome.
Love it too. I like that this year's Chrome had this year's Stadium Club had one Chrome card per, but I agree with it. My pick for the listeners, by the way, Topps Fire, basically the paper version of Cosmic.
Oh, I hated that.
I love Topps Fire. That's fine. We can disagree there. Would you rather a sticker auto PSA 10 or an on-card auto PSA 9? Sticker 10. Interesting. I disagree.
Oh, I hate 9s.
That's fine.
I hate 9s for a PC.
Buy the card, not the grade.
It has to be PC. It has to be a 10. Anything else to flip or whatever.
Buy the card, not the grade.
No, I can't buy my mint Larry Bird.
You can be wrong. That's okay, Mike. Grade 1 of 1s, yes or no?
Yeah, I mean, why not?
Yeah, I agree. Game worn napkin or player worn multicolor patch?
Player worn multi. I'm all about aesthetics.
Guaranteed hit with a huge checklist a la 2025 Topps Chrome, or rarer hits but slimmed down checklist a la Cosmic Chrome?
Cosmic. Rarer, slimmer, and not auto-dependent. I love that, by the way. I wish there was a couple other Cosmic type products. It's not all auto-dependent. I love it.
Agreed. Yep. Higher print run and lower prices, or lower print run but higher prices?
Bailout right in the middle. It's a fraud answer. I don't know. I want value there. I don't want there to be too much. Okay. So,
And then high grade vintage or a modern 1 of 1. We're talking Grail cards, not talking just some nobody.
Oh, I almost need an example. So like a 1952 Mantle, low grade.
Yep.
Or like a Brady crazy Super Bowl flawless game used tag auto.
Or Contenders 101 rookie auto. Like PSA 9 so Mantle. Or like Brady.
If it's a Brady, if it's a modern guy, but they're not a rookie, like I don't want a 101 McCarthy, even though it's worth $150,000.
Yeah.
If it's a modern guy like a Brady, I'd take the Brady.
Okay.
I like that
stuff. Yeah.
Yep.
I think I'd agree. Okay, cool. So
I like vintage, but I don't have a ton of use for it. Like I like Brady stuff. I would take vintage over like the Luka Logo Man or a $4 million mantle all day. But if you give me like a Griffey, a Brady, somebody like that that's relevant, I'll take the relevant guy.
Love it. Awesome. Well, love the lightning round there. I appreciate your time.
Yeah, that was good. I like that part.
Yeah. I'm going to jump into some mailbag questions, but I'll let you go and deal with pacifier training and maybe getting a little nap in that I know is much deserved. So I appreciate your time today, Mike.
Awesome. Thank you, Alex. We'll see you, bud.
Absolutely. So great to have Mike on. Now we have some quick mailbag questions before we wrap things up today. The first actually question that we got was from Joe, one of the co-hosts of the Cut the Nonsense show, which is on the SCN YouTube page. And he asked if a BGS 10 if BGS is considered inferior, why are so many examples of BGS 10s valued more highly than PSA 10s? And the reason for this is that a BGS 10 and a PSA 10 are not the same grade. A PSA 10 is a gem mint card. A BGS 10 is a pristine card. They're it's different things. A BGS 9.5, technically from a grading scale, is the same thing as a PSA 10. And that's why there was some debate as to whether or not BGS, whether or not they would change that 9.5 grade to a 10 in order to better compete. CGC did that not too long ago. They changed their 9.5 to a 10 because they realized that they had too much of their audience that was people weren't wanting to grade with them because they were getting 9.5s, and at the end of the day, people want 10s. So the reason why the BGS 10 holds a premium is because it is a better grade than a PSA 10. So hope that helps for you, Joe. Next question that we had was from DMan44 over on TikTok. And he said, when you were working on leaving your W-2 job, did you and Mrs. Clever Cuban have a % of steady income saved? Or was there another mindset towards working towards this change? And this is a great question because I know a lot of you are looking at, whether it's using the hobby to just fund the hobby, or maybe one day want to grow your sports card business into something bigger and more. And the way that we approached it was basically, she sat me down and said, listen, I want to see that you can replicate your corporate America income. I used to work in corporate America doing learning and development. Want to see that you can replicate the income that you're making for 6 months. Continue to work your full-time job, and you have to also continue to do cards. And what we did, and what that allowed us to do, is it allowed me to prove to myself that this was sustainable, that I was able to actually grow this business and be able to pay myself. If you're listening, I'm using air quotes here because that money was not paid to us in our, personal bank account. That money was set aside for the business. But we set that aside because it's easy to run a business when you put every single dollar back into it. It's a lot harder when you have to start to pull money out in order to pay your bills. You got to pay for your mortgage. You got to pay for your groceries. So we, for 6 months, basically treated it as if I was taking payroll. And the beauty there was that I proved to myself that I could afford to take payroll. And then we had 6 months of salary saved up by the time that I said, okay, great, it's time to quit the job. So we had a % of steady income saved, but that was a result of also just proving to ourselves that it was sustainable and this did work in the longer run. Next question was from AK Triple Play over on TikTok. And they asked, how can we better educate newcomers so the hobby doesn't take advantage of them at shows? As a vendor, I hate seeing new collectors come to my booth excited about recent purchases only to realize that they paid well above comps. And we talked a little bit about this with Mike on the podcast here, but in general, I think it's, directing them to content of how to do this research yourself. Because when you get to the point where somebody tells you, if somebody's trying to sell you something and they are telling you what it's worth, that's a dangerous situation. So I think educating newcomers on how you can figure out the values of things, to the point that I just put out a video on how to comp cards, great resource, those types of things I think we need more of. I think we need more education in the hobby, and my goal here is to do more of that as a part of this show. Then we had Tom Vasco over on Facebook asking, why does nobody put together complete sets anymore? And I think that it's a change of the way that the market and collectors view cards. When Topps puts out Series 1 and Series 2 and it's a 700 card checklist, does anybody want the card of the, no-name minor league player who has 7 at-bats and is a 27-year-old free agent right now? Not really. There are still guys that like to put together sets, and there's nothing wrong with that. We actually, our last question of the mail day is actually about putting together sets. But I think that with the introduction of parallels, I think that with the introduction of, a lot more different cards, more different sets back with vintage. I mean, you had Topps and you had Bowman. Outside of some random niche sets, that really was there was not many options. Now you've got so many different options for cards that guys can just collect the cards of the players they like. They don't have to complete a set. They can complete a set of their favorite player. So I think that it's slowed down just simply because sets have gotten to be so large and there are just so many guys that are just, realistically not worth much. But there are still guys that do complete sets. Actually, specifically, Giddy Up over on TikTok asked, what's the best place to buy individual base cards? They're trying to complete sets. They wanted to, complete their 2025 Series 1 and Series 2 set, and they're down to, I think he said, 16 cards. And it's at the point where it's obviously just not worth ripping packs anymore. And it's a weird question because you can go on eBay right now and for $40-$50, you can buy a complete set of Series 1 and Series 2. So to go out and try and buy these cards individually, that's a 700 card set. You're getting those cards essentially at 10 cents a card. So going out and buying these is really tough. I think where you're going to get the best bang for your buck is going to card shows and finding people who have, dime boxes and quarter boxes. That's not necessarily an option for everybody. There are lots of people on eBay who do, have those complete your set listings and they'll have the cards. You're going to overpay for those cards though. Like after you factor in shipping, taxes, and what they're charging for it, you're going to end up struggling on those types of things. I really think, and it's something that I know that a new-ish website in the hobby, I haven't used it a ton personally, but buysportscards.com is trying to be what is the TCG player of sports cards. And if you guys aren't familiar with TCG player, it's a massive website where people, are able to buy and sell cards. But how it works is you can put together these big bundles and sellers can sell cards for 10, 15 cents because the goal is that people are trying to build a deck. People that are wanting to play TCGs, they need to buy the cards for the deck that they want. And so you can go in and buy a lot of cards bulk for cheap from different sellers. And people run very, very successful online businesses this way. And buysportscards.com is trying to do the same thing. It's obviously a new site, working with the network problem of you need buyers you need sellers in order to have cards on the website that people are going to buy, but you need buyers in order for it to be worth it for sellers to put in the time. So it's kind of the cyclical problem of how you build up the website, and I know that they're still working on that, but I think that if the hobby can have a site similar to or buysportscards.com and similar to a TCG player for sports cards, I think that that is going to be your best bet in terms of trying to complete a set. Whether or not that has the cards you want is hit or miss. It's definitely tough. I know the fun of completing a set is great, but sometimes it's also just easier to just go and buy the complete set and grab the cards that you need. So hopefully that was helpful. That's everything that we have for today's episode, though. I hope that you guys enjoyed it. It was great to talk with Mike. We're going to have some great guests on in the future as well. More SCN guys, more guys just from the hobby as well. We're going to have obviously more episodes in terms of just general education content. I think next week is going to be a more educational episode, so be on the lookout for that. Obviously, as I said, posted the video on comps recently, so come check that out. We've got our Whatnot streams on Sundays at 1 o'clock Central, and then Wednesdays at 6 o'clock Central Time. So come check those out. Ton of fun. Have a lot of cards. And as I said, I pre-list all my cards, and I'm not going to tell you what they're worth. So I appreciate you guys coming out and checking this video or podcast or however you're engaging with it. Make sure to go check out the other SCN stuff, and hope to see you guys next week.